that FINRA is separate from the SEC, and they have a set of rules. They're organized, and those rules are approved by the SEC after public comment, but they then move forward and implement their rules. The matter that you raised around metamaterials, if I recall the name of it, in December of 2022, if I recall. Under FINRA's rules, they sought trading halt. They didn't seek the SEC's advice or permission on that. That is something that they did separately in that matter.
So is the SEC not investigating these actions at all?
The SEC's role is to investigate many things in the capital markets. We don't speak to specific investigations, but we do, on a regular basis, examine FINRA for compliance with their rules and examine them on a regular basis on whether they're following their own rules as put out to public comment.
And are you examining their process and their compliance with their own rules with regard to MMTLP?
We regularly examine, because they're such an important part of the capital markets, we examine them annually, I think. Part of our division of examination has a whole unit that examines FINRA on a regular basis.
Well, I don't know whether this question relates to you or FINRA or both, but the investors have asked for the aggregated audited share count for the MMTLP and for the blue sheet data to ascertain whether MMTLP shares were subject to counterfeit and naked short selling. Have FINRA and the SEC analyzed MMTLP for any potential fraud or wrongdoing?
We seek to analyze fraud and wrongdoing wherever it might be in our capital markets, and certainly we're well aware of these matters, but I can't speak about specific possible investigations or even confirm or deny whether we have them, because it protects the markets. When we sometimes close an investigation and we don't find something. But certainly we could follow up staff about the specific questions about data.
All right. Am I hearing you say, though, I do believe I'm hearing you say there could be an investigation underway, but you can't give data about it. But
did you hear him? I won't give you data because we don't want to affect the markets. Like, is that not market manipulation? Don't let the market have false hope if there's information out there. I apologize for stopping, but I didn't want to interrupt.
If there is an investigation underway,
hit that like button, please.
And if that investigation finds answers, is that information not going to be made available to the public?
We only make information as a result of any investigation public if we either settle or bring charges in competent courts. And that really helps protect the public and protects individuals when we don't bring charges.
Well, then how are investors and, frankly, Congress to know whether you have even undertaken such an investigation or whether such an investigation has resulted in any outcome?
Again, part of, I think, the trust in our capital markets is being a cop on the beat, but also when we close investigations that do not result in either litigation or a settlement, that's really between those various registrants or market participants that it's been closed, and they have a right to say if it's been closed or not.
Thank you, Senator Grateful. You can follow up, obviously, with written questions.
I see that my time has expired. I will be following up with you on this issue, Chairman Gensler.
I look forward to it, Senator, and just let us know when you'd like to.
Thank you, Senator Grateful. This week is the 15th anniversary, Mr. Chair, of the collapse of Lehman Brothers, as we've discussed. The 2008 financial crisis showed us all how everyday people can have their lives turned upside down due to Wall Street greed. Now Wall Street's pushing back on your attempts to make them tell investors the real facts about their businesses.
These fucking time limits are a
steps
joke.
is FEC taking?
We got 5 minutes. Like, what
to
a
ensure
joke.
that investors and savers have the information they need to make informed choices?
Well, investors get the basic bargain. They have to have complete information. And so that's, if they're public companies, to really have that full, fair, and truthful information. And there's that discussion we had with Senator Tester about climate risk, or what you mentioned, Senator, around cyber risk. Material information is part of what they need to make their choices. Also in crypto, that to the extent a crypto token is a security, that investors get a chance to make their decisions based on that full, fair, and truthful disclosure.
You noted in your testimony the SEC recently finalized the private funds rule that will require private equity and hedge funds to increase transparency for their investors. How will providing additional information on fees and performance help protect workers' pension funds, especially also charitable endowments and for other investors?
So this field has grown significantly over the years, measured, as you said, well over $20 trillion of assets. Well, standing on one side are the investors, and those investors often are pension funds.
Bingo,
and the
George.
workers and the teachers and firefighters in your districts and your states benefit. And so it's really, we proposed and we finalized based on public comment rules to bring greater transparency about the fees, the performance, and what's called side letters that these private fund advisors have in this marketplace.
Thank you, Axel.
And that helps promote competition. I mean, that helps promote, really the efficiency of the market. And if the costs come down, that means the returns for retirees
You got
goes
it.
up.
Thank you.
If it's legal, time for the cannabis. How many people do we have in here? 88 people watching this. I find this incredibly important. Please share this to your social media so everybody else can see this. I would greatly appreciate it. Hit that like button, as the more people that like it, the more we'll get pushed through the algorithm. Join Tom's Army if you want to show further support, but I just want everybody to watch this. Super chats and all that, that's up to you, but honestly, it's about the information, not about showing your support on this one. Just hit that like button.
As promised to Senator Tester, there will be at least one question, a series of questions about digital assets and crypto. Frauds and scams in the crypto markets cost consumer millions. Decades ago, the same kinds of problems were all over Wall Street. Unscrupulous promoters pushed investments in speculative or even bogus companies in some cases. Investors cashed out, putting their interests ahead of their clients' interests. We cleaned up our markets through investor protections like strong disclosures, conflict of interest rules, always a work in progress. Thank you for that. But U.S. markets, as we know, lead the world in transparency and integrity. Question, Chair Gensler, if crypto markets lived up to the investor protection principles
Thanks
of
for lying to
other
us,
markets,
Mr. Brown.
would that help protect Americans from the crypto abuses that cost consumers billions?
That's from the SEC and the government.
If they were to live up to the investor protection built into their current laws, it would help investors. But right now, unfortunately, there's significant non-compliance, and it's a field
These guys are
which is
fucking jokes.
rife with fraud, abuse, and misconduct.
Thank you. Senator Warren and I have introduced our bill to create comprehensive standards of workforce disclosure because we know the investment in worker development and training is critical to so many industries. I'll be entering questions to the record on that important issue, and I think that Senator Warner will be asking about that later. Last question. Majority of the largest companies already disclose information about climate and greenhouse gas emissions on a voluntary basis. They do so because investors demand that information, but without a clear standard, that information is not easily digestible and is not comparable across companies. What is the SEC's role in making, what is your role in making these disclosures, which, as I said, investors are clamoring for, making these disclosures useful and able to be compared and analyzed?
It's a role that Congress gave us over the decades to help investors be able to compare information that companies are putting out, and it's about material information. And investors, as you rightly said, are making decisions today based on the climate risk disclosures, including greenhouse gas disclosures of the major companies in America. That's already happening. And so our role is just to bring some comparability and consistency to this. And that's what we put out a proposal. We got over 16,000 comments. Like other rules, we're likely to make adjustments. Like the discussion I had with Senator Tester, particularly, we got a lot of comments around what's called Scope 3 disclosures, and that's what we're trying to move forward on.
Thank you, Senator Scott.
Thank you, Chair.
You and I had a discussion about the importance of being responsive, especially to the minority, and I want to have that conversation with you. But before we get there, I do want to ask a couple questions that I think are relevant. Chairman, in April, Chairman McHenry and I sent you a letter regarding your proposal impacting mutual funds and retirement savings. We expressed our concerns with the inherent unfairness of creating a two-tiered market that would significantly impact retirement savers at a time. Interesting. Even God's upset with this. At a time when so many are struggling with rampant inflation, not to mention that your liquidity risk recharacterization of mutual funds would significantly alter investment strategies for everyday retail investors. It's saying something when